Buonasera and welcome to Just Peace Talanoa Bure at COVID-19 Fiji with Transcend Oceania. Since April 2021, the pandemic hit Fiji like a storm, and mostly in Suva at Central Division and in the Western Division Fiji. With it, there were challenges and struggles that people face at a day-to-day basis. Maintaining good health was a priority. On the other hand, the strive to survive, meeting daily basic needs with job losses, loss of income, and with limited sources of livelihoods. There were also individuals and families from outer islands whom are stuck with the lockdown and unable to travel home. Their health security are at stake, let alone their keep during the length of time of the 4 months they are here. Here with us are community and youth leaders arising from the challenges of these isolations and at the height of COVID-19 in Suva at Fiji Central Division, engages in Talanoa to tell their stories, share their experiences and lessons learned that are not just limited to COVID-19 pandemic, yet to also revisit the reality of climate change and its persistent and continual impacts in our coastal islands. Let's not forget our pre-existing situation in the Pacific with the climate change and now the pandemic. In solidarity, we journey together, embracing common values, the sovereignty of our Vanua, and with preventative measures, build on our strengths and dialogue, seeking to embrace human security recommendations for positive changes that plays a vital role in our paving the way forward, building just peace communities in changing environment and climate. Join us at the Talanoa with the various representatives of community leaders and with our very own host, Justin Maravu, the project officer at Transcend Oceania.
Welcome to the Just Peace Talanoa Bure at COVID-19, a platform that brings together community representatives, leaders, women and youth to share stories and priorities that holds value to them, their people, and Vanua. Through their experiences, there is also lessons learned, recommendations, possible solutions, and plans to the current situation. Joining me today are John Bolovenakavastiti. Now tell us, what do you most value about your culture? What are some of the traditional practices that the older generations value from your community? John?
Justin. I'm from Lau, the island of Vatoa. It's the furthest island from the main island. And one thing I value about what my ancestors always value is the culture of sharing. And not just sharing, but also the culture of viva ludi. How would you say in English, viva ludi?
Respect.
Respect, eh? Could be respect. Or what's that?
Good leadership.
Good leadership, eh? Na viva ludi. And one thing I observe for my island is in Vatoa, there's other islanders that are living in Vatoa, and they form our Masini Vanua. And this Masini Vanua are the leaders of our island. And what I value about my village is the way they look after one another and also treasure God. Because I remember when I go to our Lutuni Vanua, you know, when they say in Lau, we don't have mountains, but we have God. And that's one thing that always triggers that sense of belonging, knowing that, you know, we may not have everything, at least we have God that is sufficient and good enough.
Thank you, John. Vasiti.
Most in our communities, I'm from Nasiotoka village. As you can see, we're from the interior of Telepu. we value our traditional culture. In Nasotoka, we value about our family, our traditional culture, and also we had 7 Matangalio clans. In these clans, we have different roles. So our traditional roles is what important to us, our families, and also we begin with our own families teaching us about our identity. So when it comes to identity, it comes to our traditional belief. When I talk about traditional belief, it's about our totem, our identity is what we are known of, our lotu and or spiritual development, and also what we learn from our forefathers is teaching us about what has been knowing about our traditional village knowing before in the past. We have our own traditional cooking, ways of cooking. That's how we cook food during our olden days, and also our own dialect, Boibe. So in Tailevu, if you look at Tailevu as a whole, Nasotoka village has a different dialect in the whole Tailevu areas. For example, in Moenimbuka we have 27 villages. So from Moenimbuka alone, from those 27 villages, when I said Lakomai, so in other villages they said Yali. So only in Nasotoka we use Mbawibe. So it's like we in the olden days we are counted as Kaidolo. So we are from Naitasiri. So that's how we have traditional link to Naitasiri, and also our own totem. We have our plant totem, our animal totem, and our fish. So from the animal totem we have this koli, and from the plant we have these 2 plants, the punga and bua, and also we had our own fish, which is ura and sirimbeli, as you can see in the $10 note, Fijian $10 note. And also this link us to several other communities. We have found out our relatives staying in Naitasiri, we have the same traditional totem. That's how we Tauke are different from other ethics of other Fijian in Fiji, Vinaka.
Thank you, Va. So you're talking about your connection with the environment, with your plant, with your fish, and John, you're talking about, your connection with God. So I'm also aware that the Nasotoka youth have an ecotourism running. Is it so in terms of running your ecotourism, is it to preserve some of the values that you have talked about? Or would you elaborate more on your project?
Yes, when we begin with our youths in 2002, we look at way forward in starting our own company, so to preserve all our traditional culture, which was passed down by the elders. So that's why we starting off with a tourism company in 2010, and from there we even taught our youths how to do sevu or the presenting of traditional to other visitors who came to the village, and also the way we cook food in the traditional way. For example, like using of the bamboo. So from there we pass on that knowledge to our young people, so that our culture, we've been preserved it for our next generation. That's what we are targeting now.
I just want to add to my side of the story, which is that communal way of living, and the Lao people, we hold that, we treasure that. And we always think of our relatives to those who travel to Suwa, because we don't have much in the island, eh? And the island is just enough for a few, not everyone. If you take all the Lao people from Witilevu back to the island, you'll understand what I'm saying. But one thing I like is that when they say you go there, you work hard, buy a piece of land, you know, all these things that, because a Laoan will always struggle. It's a struggle to live in the city area, and I'm glad that most of us took heed of that advice from our ancestors, and not just trying to, you know, to meet ends, but also to find other places to go to and live.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Vasiti, for affirming about the Itauke values of Vewakani, of respect. We have come to the end of our first segment. Stay tuned. We will be back. Welcome to our Talanoa Bure at COVID-19. We will continue with our Talanoa, John and Vasiti. So from what you have shared, what are some of the emerging issues of concern that you see in the changes that are happening today, and who are the most affected from your group perspectives or a broader community?
COVID-19. One is COVID-19 in the Lao group. You know, we are seen as travelers, you know, and due to this COVID-19, you know, it restricts the movements of our relatives in the island to the main island, and so as to the ones who lives in the main island, and that wants to go and enjoy, you know, that free time with their relatives. And this COVID-19 has really impacted that. And it could be like, you know, things that they have been doing for such a period of time, and all of a sudden, COVID kicks in, and then you're not allowed to do what you love doing. And this impact also, you know, not just their travel, but their livelihood. You know, work. There's no work to get food and that. And it's really sad to see that COVID-19 has really done damage. From my view, to our relatives in the island, you know, to seek medical attention and that. But I'm glad that the COVID-19 hasn't get through to them. I'm really thankful to the government that they went to Lakemba. I saw that in the news, if I'm right, that just to this COVID-19 thing, and it's really a blessing in disguise for the people of Laos to be also considered in this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So what you've just mentioned is important to us as in Itauke, because for us, social gathering is part of our lives, meeting with our relatives, and COVID-19 has brought sort of halt all of those things that we normally do. And for some of us, it is a challenge. So what do you think, Vasiti?
This COVID-19 in Thailand, we have 2 lockdown zones. One is Thailand zone. Before this lockdown went down to Thailand North. So there's Longani border. So those people from Thailand North, they can't travel to Nosori or Suva for market, especially market vendors. And that is one issue which has been raised from communities. And secondly, other outer islands like Mbau Island, they are near to Nosori, but they can't come to Nosori to buy stuff. So they travel down to Korovo again, following the sea to reach Korovo, and then they do their shopping from there. So that is one issue coming from the communities. And secondly is our elderly people. for most those who are on social welfare, because Korobo town, they haven't got any bank. So they either travel to Raki Raki town, which is far, Ba or Lotoka to receive their money from the bank. So that's how it has a lot of queries from outside the nursery boundary, like for the Longani borders area, start from Longani to Nambulini village. So they traveling that far to receive money or buying things from the supermarket. And also Korobo market, they can't even recognize for selling of their stuff, because even people in Korobo, they are near to their farms. So they travel, the farmers too from Talanoa North, they travel far, like to Lotoka to sell their produce. So right now, for Talanoa North, there's been COVID along some villages, and they are not allowed to come out of their comfort zone to reach Korobo to buy stuff. So what we've been doing is passing over the things to other youths. And even the youth, they can't even reach Longani because of the taboo in place for the Banua. So there's two other ways. We can just connect to them through using government people when they're traveling down to the communities, and they give our stuff to our families who are there. So, and also for communal ways of living, we do communal work. So something we've been learning from this COVID, in the village we can't even wear a mask. So it's not part of our life. And we do things as teamwork or sole vaki. So right now, young people who has been doing sole vaki through farming, they've been stopping because of the use of mask and the protocol going down to our leaders. They have to wear a mask while doing this community work. Something that we learned too is that we can't even afford to buy our mask every day. So that's why we had this mask problem within our own communities. So that's how we can create something else to the young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasiti. You've really talked about a lot of challenges that are faced now at COVID-19, which makes it difficult for people to access a lot of services, accessing food, to get money for the family. Thank you. Stay tuned. We will be back after this break. Thank you, John and Vasiti. We will continue with our discussion. Now, John, what recommendations would you suggest for positive change that you and your community would like to see happen for effective results when you look at the national, communal, or even national level? Provincial level.
Justin, the accessibility and the affordability of services that the people from the island needs. Imagine the ones who live in the outer island. Let's talk about the kids' education. It's said to say that most of them will miss out on this. I don't know if the government has reached out to them on that. That is for them to. But if they could be considered through planning, they could be considered through that, so that they don't miss out. Because this 1 year of education, if they miss out on this, because for me, for instance, in the Lao group, education is paramount. And nearly every word that comes out from our parents, education. And that is one thing, and not just that, but also these basic food items. the flour, sugar, rice, oil. If they are still access to that, that's good enough. But for them to be deprived of that due to some poor judgment, then I see the need to, for everyone that who's in charge or whoever, the need to have that dialogue, to discuss on how to reach out to this harm, even though it's not hit with COVID, but they miss out on this fundamental like education and all these other things that involve them, and it affects their lives, their daily lives. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you, John. Va?
Thank you, John and Justin. I would like to add on more with what Mr. John was saying about education. For some villages in Talanoa, there's no accessibility to mobile phones. So education nowadays, they are doing online services, for especially the tertiary student. So some ways that there's a lot of issue in when they need to download their subject, and they have no place to print out because of all the online offices were closed down, and also we usually travel to Nosuri. So our lockdown zone is Longani, and that's how we are lost from reaching out to our tertiary students, from engaging them to other accessibility from education, and then to our women who are also part of our market vendors. They are usually women. If they can be helped by economic empowerment, for example, we can't even receive ration if there's no other way forwards within this woman. So that their access to market is very challenged nowadays. If they could be helped with other ways for empowerment to move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Va. So you're talking about accessibility, accessing services, accessing the markets. Those are good recommendations. So just to John, is there anything else you would like to share to our viewers, to our listeners?
Communication. I would say communication. For me to know what's your problem, you need to communicate to me. And I believe in all these places in the Lao, all these remote places, they have government representatives there. Make use of them, Don't just sit home and say, this is enough, this is okay, we can. No, you need to voice out your concern and what you need, what you want, Because the government of the day is for everyone. They are there to reach out. But I would like us also to don't sit down and think this is enough. It's best that your voices are heard, so that we can all go together through this hard time, COVID-19, and in trying to help one another as we surge through this pandemic. And not just that, and there are other factors that's affecting our Fiji. The climate change, there's so many things that, we just need to work together. And communication is the key, where the people needs to communicate to those who are accountable for them, and then, right up to the top. And then from the top, coming back down. So these two transition movement of communication needs to be done so that no one is left in the dark. Regardless of the situation we are in, we still need to have that form of communication, and in that it will help so much, like I've highlighted, that source of reaching out to these places because they are the ones who are feeling the brunt of COVID-19 and its restrictions. And to conclude, I just want everyone out there to wear your mask, all the COVID protocol. Keep your distance and use hand sanitizer. Wash your hands for 20 hours or 20 seconds, is it? 20 seconds. Let's observe this, and let's try to, if you know that you have the symptoms, go to the hospital, visit the nearest hospital, and let's work together.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Vasiti?
Thank you, Justin. My recommendation to the viewers is that we can still follow the protocols of COVID rules, wearing mask, 2 meters distance, but we can still challenging all the issues like planting mangroves, building water tank, and also in a communal way. So if it's my right to take injection or jab, I usually recommend everyone for vaccination in Aka.
Thank you. Thank you, John and Vasiti, for such a wonderful thoughts and insights on your recommendation in terms of what we're going through in this difficult time. Communication is vital, and being accountable, you can be accountable to yourself, to the community that you live in, and even to the government. So that's really a good recommendation. Thank you, Va. Thank you to the viewers for watching our program, Just Peace Talanoa Bure at COVID-19.
As we conclude our Just Peace Talanoa Bure at COVID-19, we are reminded once again to enable people living just peace and nonviolence in Oceania. We need to maintain safety protocol, mask up. Home isolations may be tough while caring for each other, and at the same time, our need to continue the Talanoa for peace and stability and human security with the safety of our homes, communities, and the nation at large. I'm Andi Vasulevu. Join us at the same time next week.